Okay.
Actually,
So that's one of the things I have, is I kind of like to self-host, because then I don't know that, if you upload pictures and it says it's all our property, you can't. And then, safe.
mhm. Yeah, so I guess I don't read those readings. I probably should.
Yes, you should.
Because I know if you don't say yes, then you can't use it. So I guess
Well, there was one thing with Dropbox that everybody used. At one point, they changed the agreement, so everything you put on there would be their property. It's really recording it. Everybody can play it.
Yeah, that sort of zooms out into a bit of a higher level discussion about who owns the data.
Yeah.
And where do you want to publish stuff? I mean, you're very fortunate in the sense that you have the skills and the actual capacity to host your own instance. And that is one of the issues about this service, is that it does fill that niche for specifically instructors that wanted to set up an online course for their website.
Yeah.
Set up an online website for their course. This was a good option. Now, I know I have a couple of other faculty joining us at 1:30. They will probably be in the Hangout, but that have used this for course delivery. Have used
Wordpress instead of Campus.
Yes, have been using, actually, I should say, for the last 3 years. It's Diana Pecker, who you work with, right? So her course, she has 2 sections, very large. It's almost 400 students that are accessing her SFU web, her SFU blog as for learning material, weekly updates, all the course notes, the lectures, the PowerPoint slides, and she's very diligent with the way she mediates her class.
Yeah.
So anyways, she is in the process now of determining. She has till September 2015.
Oh, yeah.
And so that is kind of her, she is looking for a service of where, something that she can just basically turn on or choose an option. But she is faced with having all of this content, which she will recycle. It's first year computing science courses. And she iterates that stuff every year. And I do not know that, apparently there is, I was trying to get some of those Canvas people here to explain the migration path from WordPress to Canvas, because I know there is one. It may require a little customization. I don't know, have you guys heard about that at all?
But I think this business of archiving courses after the semester is a big problem for her.
Yes.
She's going to have all her material, and then she has to kind of roll it over every time. And if she doesn't do it for a semester or two, it kind of gets hard to.
Yes.
I mean, it just seems like it's very cumbersome.
Right.
Could she just not switch it to WordPress.com? I mean, I assume she's on WordPress.
Yeah.
/SCA, SFU or something. So we've got it on our server essentially, right? So they've downloaded the source and they put it on the server, and now they're saying, forget it. So has she got her stuff on the SFU server, or is she on WordPress.com? She's on the WordPress, on the SFU server. So could she not just go to WordPress.com?
And that is a process that's very easy to do, actually. You can export it. Yeah. And in fact, it is one of the, I was going to show this.
It is one of the options?
If anybody wants to go through this process of exporting your content and importing it on another site, WordPress has that built in that's very easy to do.
It's not bad.
There may be some variations.
So if it's just content, she can have copyright on the WordPress.com. It's her stuff. She doesn't have student material, but she has her own content. So
she has some student comments.
Yeah, that
she
might
has
be
some
issue,
comments from students.
So she might have to get rid of that.
Right.
But she could at least put the content somewhere where she can control the content.
So but is she able to maybe install it herself, self-host?
Mm-hmm.
So being part of the computing science department, we are in conversations. That's one of her options that she is definitely looking at. Will compute, because they host their own content management system. They do not use Canvas or CQ5. They have, I don't know if you probably have heard of this. What do they call it? You should know this.
Zetaface? Well, we were using Zetaface or something before.
They have a homegrown content management
Oh.
system where they can host content, share grades, have very informal discussions that are sort of like Twitter
Oh, yeah.
discussions.
That sounds good.
Interesting.
And it is literally, and it's the course, I can't remember his last name, his name is Ian, and he uses it in his 4th year course as a development project. So the students every semester have to take a component of this service and build on it and improve it. Update it, maybe they add a feature. I have some more information about that, but you know, they certainly have the capacity, and SFU via hosting through virtual machines, we are able to host WordPress sites as well. So now that's kind of another question, and sorry if I'm jumping around and seemingly murky agenda here, but I will come back to each of these points. But the Teaching Center hosts WordPress sites. So we have, I was just showing some of them here before we went on air. So we have the WordPress Community of Practice website. We have educational goals. We have the Task Force on Flexible Education.
So these are all on WordPress on the TLC.
Yes, exactly.
Interesting. I didn't know that the educational goals was on the WordPress.
Yep. And you can see each theme. I mean, this sort of was Neil's point, and this is, again, we heard this in the first meetup with John Maxwell. So John Maxwell down in publication has been using WordPress from the beginning and using it for both promotional tool and for course content and discussion. And that was one of the things he wanted as well, was a theme, because he gets so much heat for having these websites that aren't branded properly. So I'd like to separate, I mean, in terms of this community, because one of the outcomes that I wanted to get here today were some directions for what you guys need from a group like this. What would help support you, and what do you need to continue to use WordPress? So we've already got one really good one, which is a theme, but I'd like to separate that into 2 components, one a theme and one the brand, which is slightly different in the sense that a theme implies a real technical package that you can install, and a brand might just be branding that you put on the website.
So the other use we have of this, in addition to course content, because we've got examples, is I've got that teaching and learning blog in the Faculty of Health Science that they're operating. And on that blog, we've got teaching content, right? So stories about people's teaching, what they're doing, and some resources.
Yep.
So that is not hugely robust, but you know, there's stories up there. We've been kind of softly building that site for the past 3 to 4 years, and in the hopes that occasionally a faculty member might write a little blurb, and you know, they're experimenting and blah blah blah. So it's a teaching content site.
Yep.
So the question is,
What's it called again? Sorry.
I think it's called the FHS Teaching and Learning blog or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are we going to do with that blog? It's the question, right? And do we go with a WordPress.com, just straight transfer over? I suppose there's branding issues. We haven't made it look too glossy. I mean, you can tell it's an SFU blog. It's not really branded to their faculty, but it you know, for now, we haven't sort of fully developed that. But I think there's enough interest in the blog to keep it. We could do another survey to ask people, but when we did our first survey, faculty say they like going to that blog just to read about what their colleagues are doing and pick up the odd resource. So
Yep.
It's not a high priority, but it's there and people have it to go to. And we can always build it out more because we've started it, right? So in some respects, and I've had other experiments like wikis and blah, 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 but that blog has had the most traction.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the question, what to do with this, because it's on the SFU server.
Right. And what have you read through the email of your options?
Yeah.
Do you even know if you have other blogs? I was going to ask
Well, that's
everybody
another
that
blog.
question.
There have been other faculty in there using blogs for teaching. I mean, I know Lori Goldsmith did a few years ago. She taught a course and used the blog as a class blog, and the students actually wrote the blog.
Yes.
So there may actually be experiments that I'm not even aware of.
Well, that is one of the things. I mean, I sent David an email about this on the weekend because I literally stumbled upon some content in an old blog that I wanted to use for an educational resource. And then I realized that it was hosted on History 451. That was where students were using the WordPress to post assignments.
Yeah, and they're doing this. You know what? They're doing it in See It. I know they're doing student blogs in See It.
Okay,
And I have no idea where they're hosted.
Yeah,
I know they're doing blogs.
I'd be very curious to know where they are doing that. Can you find that out for us, Barb?
Yeah, I have to. This is on my to-do list. I know there's at least 3 classes that are doing student blogs.
Okay,
Because
so
what they're doing is they're posting. Because
Yeah.
again, we're outside a portfolio framework, right?
Yes.
So the blog is a way for the students to, in each project group, tell a story about their project.
Yes.
What they're doing when, how they built the project. They got YouTube videos. I mean, they've got the works. And so each student team in 2 courses that I know of for sure are doing this.
Yeah. Is that a case for you?
So I have a question
Sure.
in terms of this meeting and the
Yes.
agenda for today. I'm a brand
Or
new.
lack thereof?
I'm a brand new user, never used WordPress, but interested to explore more.
Yeah.
So maybe this is slightly advanced for what I was looking for. So I just wanted to sort of touch base there and then figure out if I'm on the spot.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, well, I guess I could give you a little background as far as to what this group is. And you're right, I wouldn't say it is advanced, but there's a spectrum.
Yeah.
And it definitely encompasses the advanced, but right down to beginners as well. And what we're trying to do here just today is sort of review the status of WordPress at SFU.
Okay.
So I don't know if you noticed or knew before, but there was a means for you to get a WordPress website that you could use for your course if you're an instructor. Grad students were also permitted to set up an instance for their portfolios. And some grad students were using it for that.
Okay.
And so sort of like a teaching and learning portfolio.
So whatever projects that we're working on as part of being at SFU,
Yes.
we post that on that WordPress site.
Yes.
Okay.
Are you familiar with so you're not familiar with using WordPress at all? Okay, so
Beginner.
well, one of the ways that you might be able to get started is by going to our website. So this group is sort of, there's the physical meetups, which we're going to try to have once a semester just to kind of check in and do stuff. But I've been posting updates and news and resources to, I will put the website up here for our audience as well, which there are 2 viewers online right at this moment. So, but the website is wordpress.tlc.sfu.ca. And I'm using this showcase feature on Google Hangout right now, so they're looking at me mostly, but I'm able to post links up and they're getting a feed of links. And I'm also going to see if there's anybody with questions, because we can do a little Q&A.
So is there a module, or how do you learn to begin to use this?
Well, probably just by starting a blog we don't have tutorials or training sessions on like how to,
Okay.
except for online resources,
Okay.
which give you just the basics. And I try to sort of frame sort of the SFU context. But you can go to wordpress.com and sign up with them and get a free blog for your own personal use.
Which will not be part of SFU.
No.
Okay.
That was pretty easy. I did it
Okay.
several years ago on Blogspot.
Yep.
It's almost identical.
Yeah.
It's very similar.
Okay.
You can use one, you can use the other.
Yes.
And I didn't find it too hard to learn.
Okay.
It's like learning a word processor.
So
Sure.
they're their own independent site and they host users essentially. And
Yep.
you could go ahead and do that. Okay.
Yeah, and if you were to get your own domain, for instance, you go into business and you wanted to start a website, or it's a business or personal site, you can go to your web host where you are paying for your bandwidth and ask them to, I mean, I bought my domain, jasontoal.ca, and I'm using WordPress to create content under that domain.
Jason, why is the university moving away from the WordPress?
Well, I can quote you from the memo. I don't know if that makes any sense. Let's see. This time, SFU has no official web content management system, and the learning management system of the day did not have the tools to suit the purpose, which was WebCT. So those gaps have been filled today with CQ5, web publishing, SFU's officially supported CMS, which is content management, and Canvas, our new state-of-the-art learning management system, has seen widespread adoption because everybody's gone into using it. And so those are the that's the rationale. The SFU blogs has definitely been underutilized. There's no question in terms of numbers of users, but I look at it as a bit numbers of students being impacted, and just like even with Diana's course, that's 400 undergrads per semester. You know, that's just one instructor. When you're using WordPress 2, so those are only two flavors of websites. Those are static online content and strictly learning materials. What about all these other uses in between? Niels is a perfect example. That's professional collaboration. The uses that we have in the TLC are, like if you look at Ed Goals and flexible learning, those are kind of promotional tools. So they're really to promote a mandate and garner comments and feedback to try to get discussion going about our VPA's initiatives. With educational media, we are looking for a place in our department. So educational media is a subgroup of the Teaching and Learning Center, but we are interested in publishing open educational resources. So we want a place where we can create content and share it with anybody, actually, that might want to take advantage of it. So it's similar to Niels' use in a way, except we're explicitly sharing publicly our content. Yeah, so I don't know if that, so how do you feel now about, do you feel like you're in the right room?
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah.
What were your initial ideas about what you need from a website, or what you thought you were coming with?
Well, so I'm part of the Pain Lab at CIAT, and we have, the Pain Lab has a website, and I believe they're using WordPress for that, because there was a blog that I posted.
How do you pronounce that? Or how do you spell that?
Pain Lab, just as in pain, like P-A-I-N. We
That
study.
doesn't sound like a good
Yeah.
lab. I don't know.
Yeah, we study pain. We study virtual treatments to pain.
Yes.
So we have a website, and I was putting up a blog story,
Yeah.
or whatever I had done. And so I ended up not knowing how to do that and just sort of figuring it out. And it was a WordPress site.
Sure.
And so this training seemed, and I didn't know what the content or the agenda for this would be. But I ended up using WordPress just out of default, just for posting that one blog or a couple blogs.
Yeah.
And so I thought maybe, it's just helpful to understand how this whole system works. And that's how I ended up coming. But it's okay. So is there a person like a troubleshooting, or like if you're using WordPress and you end up are there the person for CI?
No.
So,
Well, that
No,
is.
I'm not,
okay,
I have a different role in CA
Okay.
now.
okay, so
I mean, that kind of gets to a bit of the history of this group, because although there hasn't been, so the service is not officially supported, so there's no official support. Although I have been an advocate, and if questions do come into the teaching center, typically they trickle down to me.
okay.
And what I've been doing over the past several years is doing one-on-one support. So somebody would come in, they have a question, I do my best to help them with what they have. So now I have this website and this community. So I've compiled and published all of the little how to make a blog post, why use WordPress. This is so stuff that I was sharing individually, one-on-one. So now I put it all on one spot, so everybody can. Yes, that is it. And you can.
Does there a contact us?
There is a contact, but the easiest way is probably just to join the site
Okay.
and create an account,
Okay.
and then you can post either via the comments or in the discussion board. I think my email address is up there as well. Yeah. So that's kind of, I'm in a weird position because I'm not supporting WordPress at SFU, and I don't really want to do that.
That would be like inundated. Being inundated.
It is, but I do kind of see a need to facilitate, because I see a lot of very successful uses of it still being deployed. And this is the thing that I like about it, is that it's a Swiss Army knife. So you can take it and use it to the exact requirements.
It's brilliant, actually. Yeah. It's brilliant. I mean, it's not too hard, and it can be used in a number of different ways. Right?
Yeah. So,
I'm still perplexed that the variety of ways that people are using it and adapting it is not part of the configured solution of Canvas and CP5. I mean, we know that there's a lot of people probably using this product. And so there's some reason for people to get off the product. So what I'd like to, because I'd like my own, but I'm going to put my own on WordPress.com. I'm not going to fiddle around with the university connection.
right.
Just because I want to write about my own practice, and I'll have less worry if I do that. But I'd like to be able to advise my faculty colleagues that I support about their teaching and learning blog.
Yep.
And some of the pros and cons, and like what's good about moving to WordPress.com and what's not so good about it. And
Thank you.
Thanks very
where
much.
can we find a tool, right? Because the CQ5, I'm not convinced that everybody really loves it for this purpose.
Oh.
And Canvas is just yet again another instruction. It's an instructional interface. And this, in the context that I'm talking about, it's not an instructional resource.
Yes.
It's a professional development resource, and that's different. Agenda.
We hear a lot of those, professional development.
And so, and they can be co-authored a little more easily, right? And you can collaborate a little bit. And it's different when you're in the confines of a structured.
I'm just looking at the FHS blog site, and I think it's definitely a good candidate for an institutional blog, and being on the SFU site, because FHS will always be part of SFU. For example, my my blog, in between my first 3 postings and
It's your personal blog.
this year's, I was away from SFU for 2 years, for example. I didn't post during that time. That's a .com, it's a WordPress.com site. So in a sense, it's my own. It's directly related to my work here.
Yeah.
But it's more of my own site.
That's what I'm thinking.
And it's not really for, it's not so much for faculty members in applied science to look at. I didn't write it for them. I wrote it for myself, for my educational development colleagues, teaching and learning center staff, other, maybe FTFs or the UTFs.
Yeah.
But it's not really for, it's not a central piece of my work. It's really my own professional development project, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
So in that case, it makes perfect sense for you guys to host your own websites.
Yes.
Like to go outside of the thing. And I don't think, SFU should be, put in the position to be web hosts for all or for the kind of needs. But then it starts to but then we get into gray areas very quickly, right? Like, So with the FHS, well, there was one tip here on the retirement post to find out what other blogs you have started. Now, I wanted to ask you this specifically, Barb, because it seems like we've cooked up a lot of blogs for you in the past.
In FHS, we've experimented a few times, right, with both this and the wiki.
Yes. So I'm going to post this link in the Hangout, but how can I get a list of my blogs? So they post a link here. You can log into blogs.sfu.ca/myblogs, which I did not know that this was out there.
There's also a TA blog.
And now who set that up, do you think?
It was either David or I. And that was for TA training. And again, it was another experiment of putting content from the TA workshops. It was fairly generic. If we had a workshop for TAs, we'd say, okay, this is what we're doing. Here's some PowerPoints from the various speakers. And it was really a repository for our content. Because we didn't have a repository. It's not like a course. We didn't want them feeling like it was a course necessarily. At the time, it was WebCT that we were operating with, not Canvas. So we figured, let's try a blog and see, because we actually also wanted to inspire possibly some questions from the TAs in training, right? So we thought, at least with the comment capability of the blog,
yes,
you could send people away, and somebody could add a comment, and then we could monitor the comments. So that was our hope, but we never really developed it more fully for that engagement strategy. But that was in the back of our mind. The first year we tried to put this thing up, and it was for the TA training here in Surrey. You remember that in that period? And so we tried the blog because we had no other place to put stuff.
Yeah.
And also because it wasn't discipline specific. It was across the board at Surrey. And so in that case, the audience, which was much broader than just CS students or science students or whomever. So we figured it was a good rationale for us to have a blog.
Do you think other educational consultants would see that as advantageous or useful?
Well, we passed it on to the crew that are currently, I know Daria and Sarah and whoever else is doing TA training has now, other people have seen the blog. I don't know whether they're using it.
Yeah.
But we certainly did for a couple of years, and then we passed that on to other people. So that's a question is, once they get developed, do you either keep them going, or like Vivian and I have personal blogs that we drop in on every few years, right?
Yes.
And so that raises another question. If it's not a frequent flyer, you're not using it all the time.
So what about using Canvas?
Yeah, so they could move that one over to Canvas possibly. I mean, the people who are involved, because they got the Cuddle program that's more structured in Canvas. So maybe the TA training should also now be in Canvas, if that's where they're going.
There is as well, just speaking of using Canvas, there's a Canvas site for the Experiential Learning Community Practice, which is a group of mostly staff and not faculty. I don't think there's any faculty members per se who are members, but we're it's to get the various departments across SFU who work on around supporting experiential learning, say student services, SFU International, etc., TLC, together and talking to each other. And that's a canvas.
Canvas community of
It's
practice.
a canvas community of practice, and I think the canvas actually works pretty well. I'm not quite sure how. A lot of what we're doing is using it as a just a document repository, but also there's an option for discussion, of course.
Yes.
Just keeping track of groups who in the community.
Yeah.
So that's intense.
Interesting.
You know, it just struck me, the big difference in the blog versus Canvas model is that the blog is really hosted by, or you're really the owner in a sense, right, of your own course blog. You put your material behind. So you are the shepherd of that blog and kind of monitor it. When it goes in Canvas, it's a completely different framework,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So
You're forced into a framework.
I know, and so this is one of the things, and this is where the wiki also kind of lost its balance, because I've experimented a lot with the media wiki, and especially around curriculum reviews and getting ready for accreditation, this kind of thing that the whole faculty needed a game plan, and somebody had to be the owner.
Yes.
And so I think that's a big piece that we have to figure out. When you're writing your own blog, you're typically, but once it goes into one of these other models, how do you make it work?
What's your experience? I know Neil was chatting about MediaWiki as well. So do we know what the status of MediaWiki is?
That's one of the things I have my ear open.
Yeah, you're waiting. You're waiting to hear if it's going to be shut down.
Yeah,
You're expecting it to be.
expecting it, so I'm gonna have to move it to my office machine or something.
Yeah.
So then how do I export the content, all that crap, you know? I mean,
Yeah, and it's a bit messier.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's, the content, there must be files or something I can just move over, but I don't know how to do that. There, files.
Yeah, and I mean, the other one was Sakai, right?
Oh, that is
Sakai,
definitely done.
Yeah, they're not gonna use that.
You know, Sakai has definitely pulled the plug on. The plug has been pulled on Sakai.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too.
Yeah.
That was one of the options I was looking at.
And I had tons of those sites because again, we were using them as faculty working space,
Yeah,
not course delivery. It's a real different. This user is faculty.
Yes.
So what's going to work for faculty is the question.
so what's pushing this point the plug business? Is this CIO guy who's sort of chopping off all these things that he thinks are?
I think they're trying to build, I don't know. I mean, I guess they're trying to be as efficient as possible, streamline their resources. So you either go into one bucket or the other bucket, and it makes things neat and tight.
Yeah,
That's my general.
Is it more, I guess, expensive in terms of staff time to support more?
exactly. Yeah,
Or licenses?
Yeah. I mean, they've got a response.
So the fewer systems that are
Yeah.
institutionally supported, the cheaper it is to support. Is that the main?
Yes, and
So
WordPress gets particularly messy because there's multiple. I mean, everybody wants to customize.
yeah,
So they want to have their plugins, like no other users would have LaTeX running. on
that's right.
their
That's one
WordPress.
reason I have to run it on my own machine because they would never support anything like that.
So that's a very personalized service, but then it almost requires a personalized admin.
And even WordPress.com, I don't think you can run those plugins.
Oh, is that right?
Some of them, yeah,
Yeah.
you can't run the LaTeX one, I think.
Are you able to share the URL of your website so we can?
Alberding.fiz.sfu.ca. I can just bring it up. Alberding/WordPress.
So the self-hosting is
So-
really on the .com.
Yes. Well, I mean, or internally. Like we have self-hosted at the teaching center. I mean,
Okay,
that's
so
kind
here's
of one of the
another
things
question.
I'm trying to figure out. Do you guys need more websites? Do the ECs or the TLC or the other faculties because we are not in the website hosting business, and that's not.
Exactly.
We can't open up the doors to say, oh, anybody who wants a
No.
WordPress site, come on in.
That's what I was wondering, is how come these are still, I mean, the educational goals, the flexible learning, and now this your WordPress site are the three. But are we
Oh, and they're
growing
not
that
stopping.
business or no?
Well, no. Well, this is a good question. STLHE website,
Is it,
WordPress. So we just launched that last week. That was designed and
I had
built
no idea.
in-house. Every STLHE website is WordPress. If you go back through the years.
Maybe that's why.
So sorry, the Society for Teaching and Learning in Higher Education.
So why don't you get in line and use C25? What's wrong with you guys?
Well, the thing is, outside of the institution, WordPress is standard.
Oh,
in
yeah.
the real world, WordPress would be a really go-to tool, but it's within the walls that we're being asked to publish into one of these two environments.
Yeah.
And it's basically, I mean, I think we're the square pegs in a lot of these cases, right? And
So
there's a
I'm
lot of stuff
reluctant.
falling through the cracks.
So if TLC wants to host faculty teaching blogs like my FHS, okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
If engineering decided to have a teaching blog, then it would again be, that makes sense to have that on an SFU server. I mean, that was the faculty preference. They were keen to try a blog, but they didn't want it all over the planet, right? So the best way of solving that problem is to get it on the SFU server. People felt confident in experimenting, and it wasn't exposing their dirty laundry everywhere, right? So this was part of the conversation that we had in the early days.
Public versus private, it's a big
Yeah,
it's a
and
big issue.
the context is such that privacy is a big thing. So that's fine, that's why we went with the, but if TLC is gonna grow their care and feeding of these blogs, then it would be nice to know that, because, you know, other faculty might have an interest in having a teaching blog or a,
Sure.
you know, so in which case that could be part of the growing.
Is there any competitor for WordPress?
No. I would say no. There are other services out there certainly that are trying to do the same thing WordPress did, which is make publication of websites easier. They get into more of even easier systems. I'm going to ask the studio audience or the viewing audience, you guys are the studio audience, to send examples if you know any good web publishing tools or services. Some of the ones that are on the top, I mean, they always have fancy new names and slick, responsive themes, and it's on the tip of my tongue. The most popular one right now is Blogspot.
Yeah.
Blogspot is one, Pages in Google, and it's usually not blogs. I mean, sometimes blogs are built in. Blogs is almost it's pretty much a dated term actually to have. You know, it's a website. It's a website with static pages, and
But people call them blogs all the time.
yeah, that's fine. You can blog it. You can post it. That's
Everything updated.
yeah,
The other standing pages would be, you know, posterity.
yeah. I mean, this is the part that I find most that I'm going to be losing is the archiving. Like, so now, typically, if you have a WordPress site and you post it up, everything, as long as you're still paying to have your site maintained, that will just be there, and that link will always go. And so now some of those will be needing to be moved. Some of that content. I mean, I'm not sure where I'm going to put my own stuff, but I've sort of only dabbled on the SFU blog server. I've got other sites where I've been posting stuff for a while, so it's one of the resources that I wanted to share.
And this is part of the challenge of going down that pathway of getting it in a blog. There's always a threat that it's going to go.
But you self-host it.
Yeah, that's the
You
thing.
lose that.
Yeah.
Jason, you heard of ArcOS?
ArcOS.
Well, this is I was thinking of off topic. how I found out about WordPress is that I bought a Raspberry Pi.
Yes.
And what I really wanted was a Dropbox alternative that I could use. And so ArcOS had was a version of Arch Linux that ran on Raspberry Pi. It was all administered through a web page, so so I installed it, and it sort of worked. And by accident, they also had WordPress. That's another installation, and that actually worked perfectly right off the bat. And even though it's a small processor, it's fast enough.
Yeah.
So I just plugged it into my router at home, and otherwise I was online.
Just like that.
Yeah. So maybe maybe it would be made easy so that people don't have to hack on
That is one of the, and this is sort of another characteristic of WordPress I find, is that you kind of have to get your hands a little bit dirty. Like you always have the two views, and this is what people kind of, you have your public view, and then you have the dashboard.
Right.
So in that dashboard, that's your adding a post, adding a page, adjusting your menu. But you can also do all the other configurations. You can add features.
Edit CSS files.
You can go in really, if you're technical, you can get in there and really tweak it, or you can just choose a theme. So even having that publication environment is very different than CQ5 or Campus.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's a completely different paradigm in some ways.
It is.
Yeah. And I would say it's a little more modern and advanced, really.
Unified. It's
Yes.
been around a long time, but it's actually got the features that people want, which is customization possibility and flexibility.
Yeah.
And
archiving. And this is what people want.
And I always worry about Adobe, but they brought things out and they abandoned them. Right? CP5 thing, about 5 years ago. Remember Illustrator, they're freehand.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Freehand, right? I mean, I've got files in freehand.
Yeah.
So that's why I like this open source idea. Anyway, I should really take it off here. I mean, this is very interesting.
So
Thanks for sharing your site. I will get back to you with, I will need to basically, consult and have a look at your website to see what's going on. But I'd be happy to make some recommendations. Like, you're looking for a theme, but I probably could not give you a theme out of that just to email you. But I could say, based on what I see on your existing look, here's a logo, here's a header, here's a snippet of code you can put into your header file.
I've made no attempt to make an SFU look.
Sure.
But if I'm going to sell it to other people to use in conjunction with the SFU physics site, I mean, kind of like be able to move from one to the other when you notice if it's great.
But you asked specifically about the typography.
Well, yeah.
As being one of the components you would like to
The reason for that is I was looking around. I actually found a website that would take a website and spit out a WordPress theme.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
No.
wow.
But it basically was just the colors, right? They didn't worry about the typeface.
Yeah.
So I mean, I suppose I haven't actually tried it yet. I was going to try it on WordPress.com to see how it worked, to see whether it was close enough that we could modify it from that. But I did spit out the right, button color.
Well, if you're waiting, the second part of my post of my the anatomy of an SFU brand is going to be the typography.
That's what I'm waiting for. Yeah,
Yes.
That's why I came to hope you do it.
Well, I'll let you know when we get to that stage.
You promised it by September.
Did I promise
Yes,
that?
that's what it says there.
So with these SFU,
That's probably recorded too.
the TLC SFU hosted blog sites, will they all have this branding capability? Like, is that the idea?
At this point, those sites have been pilots.
Right.
And we have had within our organization the willingness to let them be their own unique snowflakes.
Mm-hmm.
But recently I've been asked to streamline the brand of those.
Yeah.
and chat with our communications guy, Mark, specifically, about what that means. What that means in terms of, see, now this is where we get into
Yeah, because
this.
TLC doesn't own these initiatives. I mean, the Educational Goals is actually an initiative on behalf of the VPAs.
Yes, which is why we needed to stay on brand.
Right?
Which that site is on brand.
Yeah.
And the flexible learning
Specifically.
is a project at the institution level at this point. It's not an institutionalized, it hasn't been solidified, right? So it's an initiative right now.
Yes.
So at some point it moves from being an initiative to something more solid,
Yes.
and then gets probably rebranded.
So if you don't follow the SFU brand, what do they do to you?
Yeah.
Well, that is the question. That is exactly the
That's
question.
exactly it.
And so they are going through some reorganization in external affairs. And in the past, the common look and feel has been the law. But I think there's been more willingness now because they sort of cover two bases, learning spaces and static websites. But all of this space in between, they don't have any guidelines for, and they probably won't be able to get guidelines. So I would make the case specifically with course stuff and research stuff. So yours falls into research website, collaboration tools. There's no branding requirements at all from the institutional perspective. Now, I think you're right, is that if you want to sell it and get people in your group to, that a little branding actually gives them a sense of security, gives them a sense of place. So the requirements, I would say you can create your own sort of guidelines for what you think, but it would be nice to have a quick little, like I think a header file would be the thing that any WordPress user could take, and that would put in the SFU logo. It would link back to the sfu.ca. It would include typography and the background color. The background, that red texture
So
file.
is there some sort of official, like Commissar branding who like approves all these things and tells you to fix it?
No. They had somebody who went around encouraging people to update their sites. As more and more people go into CQ Fiber Canvas, it's less of an issue. So there's less randoms out there. Nobody's come knocking on our door yet.
But it seems like so many people using WordPress, it'd be nice to have something to start with.
Yeah.
Not have to.
Well, and like it depends on your audience, right? Like now people from public affairs and media relations would argue this, but we are hosting open educational resources, so that is our audience is global. So we have some need to stay on SFU brand, but it's for an international audience. They're more concerned about the content than about the branding in there. Does that mean we have to have SFU logo on all of our educational resources as well? I don't know, maybe. Do you guys make educational resources to put on the internet?
No, it would be faculty who make the educational resources.
Right.
See, this is the thing.
Sure.
It's about faculty's resources, not so much about our resources.
Sure.
So if faculty create an educational resource, like Neil has, and even more specifically according to your definition as an object, then frankly, they should be able to host it within their discipline and within the branding of their discipline and within their own community. The faculty community is not the TLC community.
Yes.
We need to be really clear about this, right? So I can't imagine people from FHS wanting to host their learning objects in the TLC. They're going to want to host them in FHS.
Sure.
And they should be encouraged to do that because of the discipline specificity. And we know that pedagogy is discipline specific.
Yeah.
So
wish
we
you
need to
were-
create a model where the faculties are encouraged to create learning object and resources, that the branding in the faculty and the TLC supports that process. That's what I would say would be a good practice.
Yeah.
Because then the faculty can narrate and can comment and can reflect on and can repurpose those resources within their discipline.
Yeah.
And their colleagues are gonna go to their discipline. They're not gonna come to the TLC. So somebody from, you know, Timbuktu or US or wherever they are on the planet that sees a cool resource is gonna wanna see it in relation to a faculty. So I don't really follow this notion of the TLC publishing open educational resources if they're faculty centric, if they're based in the discipline.
Well, they are from our Ed Media program.
Right, but really they are the property of the faculty. They are the instructional property of the faculty. So here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a faculty member, but I'm going to advocate for the property of faculty because it's their educational resource.
Yep.
So we have to move in the direction of supporting that model.
So, but do you think though that a site like the educational resources that TLC is producing serves as a model that others could follow? Like, is that not a good?
I don't know because it's
case?
based in the discipline. I'm a firm believer that the pedagogy is in the discipline.
Yeah.
It's in the culture of the discipline, it's in the text, it's in the behaviors of the discipline. And so the creation of the educational resource will reflect that discipline.
Okay, but do you find a need in FHS for, do they want to share their resources?
We need to talk about that in FHS.
Yes.
So for instance, the people who've been from FHS into the Ed Media Prodigy program, I know full well have their own, I mean, I know one has a YouTube video site, and that's where the videos are. It's his own video site.
Absolutely.
They're not, you know, so this is where people want their own sites.
Yeah.
They're hosting their own videos on their own server, not on YouTube.
They're on YouTube.
But on YouTube.
They're on YouTube under that faculty's individual name.
Yeah.
Now, whether he wants to move beyond that and get description, I mean, we've talked about the fact that he would need some descriptors around the use of that material to make it helpful for another person in the universe to come along and say, I want to repurpose those videos.
Yes.
How do I do it? But
Yes.
they're going to want to talk to him, not TLC.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
So
absolutely.
we really haven't thought this through. I
Sure.
really question the TLC's, you know, holding this too close. When in actual fact,
What are we holding too close?
well, I mean, we're hosting open educational resources, right?
Well, that is specifically related to Ed Media, like the that's an outcome of our Ed Media Protege
That's
program.
fine. But
Like that's
that's a
it's
different
not
outcome.
it's not SFU resources. It's resources that have been made by SFU faculty in our program.
Right.
So it's very specific to our.
I think I'll-
Yeah, thanks a
Okay.
lot, Neil. Again.
Yeah, I'll send you
Okay,
my,
that's good.
this. And, hold on, waiting for the,
I hear you. I'll send you that.
I just ordered, huh? Yeah, so that's, okay, maybe next semester.
Carry on. Yeah, keep on blogging, right?
Yes, and if
Or
any,
something.
Keep on blogging, yeah. Okay.
so I'm just seeing if anybody is sending us any links. I've sort of instigated some questions and asked participants in the remote audience there to contribute their thoughts
And guess what?
and links.
We could think about asking or coming up with both for faculty support, like what do they need to carry on with their blogs, if they have them, and then our needs are different as professionals. They're a separate need for .com, self-hosting.
One second. You want to pull this? Is it time to go?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Unless there are other questions coming up, I'm probably going to end this early. I just wanted to check in with I did have an agenda out there.
Let's see what's on the agenda now.
Yeah, there's 4 items. This is not the best hangout, but I can add this. Oh, and I have an email from Diana. She says she can't hear. She hasn't turned on her volume. Diana.
You got Adams.
Sure. We're broadcasting a Google Hangout right now and chatting. That's okay, kids? So it doesn't seem like Diana's was able to. What did you get from Adam? Are you?
Are you live?
Yeah, I'm live. It says so.
See, here's my other, having been around for 100 years, worry, is, you know, we used to host blogs when we were part of our former organization.
Yeah, we got in trouble for it.
Exactly. And one of the tensions, I had a blog the first year I started here, which was 9 years ago, I started a blog. And then every once in a while I would add to it, but I was like, it was a little bit too close. I just wasn't sure I should be developing it on the, and then afterwards they basically closed it down, right? So we had to take it off the server and move on. So by the TLC hosting these blogs, they're a little bit at risk for being ended at some point.
Well, yeah, like the SFU version is ended.
So that speaks to, because I'm on the Educational Goals Initiative, I'm already thinking, okay, now what? Right? What are we going to do with the content? We need to change it up. We need to add new content. Is Daniel in the loop on this? And because he's been kind of shepherding some of that content. So maybe we need a meeting with the educational goals, Daniel, you and I and Cindy, to sit down and talk about what should we be doing? Because we actually need to add some resources to that site.
They're ready to go anytime.
I know, but in the long range, it's kind of.
It's not in the long range, though. That project has an end date. Flexible learning has an end date.
No, I'm talking educational goals. There's no end date on that.
Well,
the VPA's office.
The initiative, like the launch of the promotion has an end date. Even though it's a 7-year cycle moving forward, it's not, like that site is not being used to host the goals or to.
Well, it actually will have examples.
Yes, some examples, but where are they?
Well, so it's so
there's
at the moment,
nothing.
is it a marketing site? Like, is it
Yes.
just okay? So as a marketing site, so Daniel needs to hear that that's a marketing site, and if the VPA's office wants something more substantial over time, they need to have it. They need to figure that out.
And that's why we chose WordPress, because there was a request that they wanted more substantial features over time.
I know they want.
But when was the last time we worked on it? It was over a year ago.
No, I know they want more substantial stuff on it.
Yeah.
So we need to meet with Jason and Cindy, you and I.
Sure.
And talk
Yeah, no,
about
that's
this.
good. Educational goals should definitely be reviewed.
And if it's going to move beyond a marketing site, and the TLC is sort of, hosting out of the good graciousness of their heart, but eventually it's not a long-range strategy, then we need to think about it now, right? Should this educational goal site be moving to CQ5 or campus?
Yes. Well, that was an option. That was an option when we started the design, and
maybe it's time to revisit that.
Because of the requested features, which was honestly simply to have comments. You know, that educational goals, that CQ5 is so cumbersome and difficult to get feedback from users is a problem. As far as I'm concerned, the sites that I've been asked to build and design, like STLHE, could not have been done with CQ5.
Well, here's the thing, with the educational goals right now, it's mostly static content.
Yes.
Templates, process, some examples.
Yes.
There's not a lot of dialogue on that site, and unless somebody coaches dialogue, unless you're there really coaching and asking people to enter, they're not going to go. So maybe we need to revisit with the educational goals team exactly what's the purpose of that site and what do we need it for. We can get the VPA's office to give input and then make a decision, because it probably needs to be a game plan about that.
Game plan about educational goals. Yeah, well, I mean, this is one of the issues we have hit within the TLC is capacity. So we do one of these sites every year. That's no problem. We get pulled off of our things. We go work for the VPA or the president's office. We've done sites for. And then the site has a short duration, and then it's
Yeah.
typically pulled away or ends. But this year, we got slammed. I was basically doing 5 or 6 websites, plus consulting with other people's, and these are all WordPress sites. And it was like, what is going on here? Like, why? This is not in my job description, like WordPress host for the university. And yet, people say, no, we don't want a CQ5. We don't want a CQ5 site. And so I've asked now that this really be, I mean, this is another one of the items on the agenda that I was hoping we could cover, which is, you know, if this WordPress community of practice is a service, let's say, let's look at it as a service for the university. What should it be? Like, what should we be doing here? I mean, I like having these discussions because every time something else comes out of the woodwork, a new site, a new use case. And in fact, this is feeding into another initiative that I'm working with Brian Lamb on from Thompson Rivers. So he's building a case for shared service in BC for WordPress. So like BC Campus does shared service for Collaborate, or no, they're Big Blue Button. They had Kaltura. They have other shared services.
Are they doing WordPress too?
No, and that's the question. And I think that's the case Brian's trying to make, is that there is a need provincially for a WordPress site service for the province. So that sort of gets you out of your own institutional stuff.
What's UBC doing?
Well, UBC is a great, I mean, I'm hoping to get them in here in the next meetup because they are all WordPress. Now, I don't mean all WordPress because they still use Blackboard and have a couple of other systems, but they have a very sophisticated, very mature and in-house customized multi-user WordPress development.
Well, they've been going for a little while longer.
They've been going for years.
And very intentionally.
Yes.
So that's the difference, right? If we decided WordPress every faculty needs a teaching and learning blog on WordPress, and we could start that process, right?
Yes.
We've got some examples, get some FTFs in the mix, and say, these are some of the things we can do, and your faculty could benefit, right? That would be easy.
Yes.
Because the ECs would just help down along, right?
So
But we need to get intentional.
So a question about timing, so it's 20:02.
yes.
And are there things that we want to cover before we end, and what is the scheduled end time? So
2:45.
2:45. So are there things that were on your agenda that we need to cover? That
An overview of the SFU announcement we've done. Review of contents and sites currently hosted. Community phase, brainstorming alternatives. We've talked about a few of those. I don't think there are other ones at this point. Community phase 2, so that's the part of the discussion I'd like to get in now is sort of what are the next steps for this community. I've got a website, I've got resources. I'm presuming even though SFU WordPress, even though SFU Blogs is retiring, I will still be getting calls about how to do stuff with it. So in the sense I'm still supporting it unofficially, I'll use this website to post resources. Like I'm gonna get that one for Neil about typography. He seems pretty keen. Yeah, exactly. It happens
Any
all the time.
personal blogs, I mean, do you have a handle on how many you've got personal blogs on?
If you have a blog, it's a WordPress blog. Like if you have a personal blog,
But on the SFU server, like would there be research, like have they done an inventory of how many people are using this product?
they haven't shared it with me.
But they've done it?
They probably have a list somewhere.
They would have,
Could
because
inquire.
it would be really good because, you know, there might be quite a few people. And you know how nobody pays attention to the email when you get supervision. So it would be nice to know.
I would kind of like to know. I mean, I'd kind of like just to know the ones that we've done ourselves over the years, because then my final item is really content. So, like my last example was History 451. So this was a site that David set up in 2010.
Yeah, I know. I think that we started the TA blog in
2010.
Yeah.
So it was a great semester, tons of resources, student created content, and I linked to it at the expo.
That's an excellent example.
It was a great example. Now, so this is, I need to figure out what to do specifically about this site. But I'm going to post the link
Is there a
into
faculty member associated with it?
Wileen Wickow. From history. He's a history prof. This was a very innovative project. They had the blog, we tied it with an audio piece, and we used LAR, which is GPS, sort of an augmented reality layer. So when you had your device and you were looking at the site, you could walk along, and as you got close to the Terry Fox statue, you would have access to the audio content,
Oh, yeah.
but you had to physically.
I remember David being on this project.
Yeah, no, it was really, I thought it was really exciting and innovative. And like I say, all the students did it and created content and put it on this blog. And now I know I can get it off. I can export it and I can put it on my desktop. Like I can save it, but that's not what I want. I want it archived so it can be linked to in the future.
Well, if the faculty member is around, they should have something to say about it.
Maybe, but then is it like if they don't have something to say about it, should I pursue it or should I just let it drop?
If the faculty don't care about the blog, that's another question.
Yeah.
It represents a piece of work in time.
To me, it's a shame
You
that
know
those
where there were
things
a
get
lot of
lost.
blogs done was in the era of Tech One. They were doing course blogs. That would be around that time, right? 207 to 210.
Interesting. I'm getting. Adam is one of our listeners, but he's not asking any questions per se at this point. We're just getting a handle on the Google Hands. Yeah. So, what do you think we should do? What do you think I should do with this initiative? Because, like, my goal, as far as how I planned to run this, like next semester, I wanted to have one meetup a semester, and I wanted my idea was that it should be in time so that the upcoming semester of courses can be, if you wanted to use a blog, then you could. Look, we can start here at 2:30.
Maybe. I'm going to find out from CIT about what they're doing 337, 336, and 106.
Yeah, let's
I
share.
think those are three
I'd love to
courses
know where
that
they're.
have
I'd love to know
blogs.
where
They're
they're going.
student blogs
Yes.
for their projects.
Yeah.
And they must be going to WordPress.com.
Yeah. Yeah. No students
But
in
then
the.
that would be a problem with the legislation, right?
But is it though? But
I don't
is
know.
it though? Like I do
I
not.
don't know, but we
like,
need to get a handle on this.
French is another example. Now, the French program, I'm going to write a use case for them because that's my next role is to write up some use cases about how SFU faculty are using WordPress. So with the French department, they have student assignments being published on WordPress.com.
Okay.
Those are being, and I set up the framework for this, those are being mashed into a single RSS feed using RSS mix, a real open but underground kind of tool. Then that RSS feed is being pumped into CQ5, so people have a reading list. So on CQ5, we've published these reading lists that are user-generated by the students. And then that is linked into Canvas, where they go to submit their assignments. And so here's a faculty that are using all three components.
It'd be really good to have a look at that, because maybe they would start to do that with the student blogs from C, is to feed them into Canvas.
That would be awesome, and it's very doable. That's an example that I need to write up still, because I think that would be an interesting.
Because these blogs are marked.
Yes. Well, it's a good question. They are not evaluated in terms of their quality. It's the journal. It's a journal entry, and they're supposed to write in French. So that's the assignment, right?
Okay, so it's slightly different. In C@106, 106, they're describing their projects and the performance. Like they're basically going through the 4 steps of the project.
Right.
And they're summarizing in the blog, and they're reflecting on their, learning from stage to stage.
Yes.
So that's going to be marked, and I gotta find it out.
Yes, we do gotta find out more. Because if you're on WordPress.com, you are not. You're outside of the SFU walls of safety.
Yeah. Unless they get the form signed, right? That Robin has. She's got
Something
the form.
like, yeah, it's
The
usually,
privacy form?
that's usually a case, yeah. You get them to sign it, then it's like, go
So
for
the
it.
next thing I want on my personal blog is I want to get moving.
Yeah. Do it.
Just follow the first question. The main question. Yeah.
Yeah, boom.
There's no time like the present.
And so I want to know, what are the best features to have on a blog? What's the best look and feel for a personal blog? I mean, I can look at examples on the internet that I kind of like.
Buy a nice thing.
But, what should we do to, if you want to launch a professional personal blog, what is the basic stuff that needs to be there?
Yes.
I want to go back to that stage and start building a little plan.
I'll add that to my sheet.
A little bit of a tips.
Like,
Yeah, okay. Like, is it, what are some features? Like, and then how do I make, I got my Flickr site, right? So what should I be doing to link it to that? Really create the platform. I want to go back to, how do I create a social media platform
Yes.
for myself?
Yeah. Nice.
With the blog as a base, probably, because that's going to have my content.
Yeah.
And then what's the next layer on top of that, right? So I've got a Flickr site. How do I weave that in? Is that a good idea? My Twitter feed, how does that link? So I want to kind of know, how does it all work together?
Right. That is beyond the scope of this community.
But I bet you other
But we
people
can
want
talk
that
about-
too. I
Is
know.
that related to teaching and learning?
Well, yeah.
Kinda.
I mean, I guess the question is social media, how do they work together to support each other? And
Do you think the WordPress community should be reframed as a social media community?
it's a concept.
Possible. Take it out and expand it a bit.
Well,
Yeah.
these tools are not used in isolation. That's
And
what
it is
I'm noticing. Everybody that's got a WordPress
Yeah.
has got all the little icons stacked, right? From
Yeah.
Pinterest to, the Flickr and the Twitter. Like, they've got them all. Instagram, they're all there.
Well, I mean, in that context, WordPress is really like the spine. It's
Yeah,
like
it's a
the
platform,
central
right?
platform that you can bring in all your other pieces. So it makes it so good for portfolio.
Precisely.
Yeah, no, portfolios have been, now I heard Canvas has a portfolio too. So maybe the next, do you think having a Canvas person into this session would be useful next time?
I'm not going to create anything on Canvas for my myself.
No.
So the question is, what do I do with my faculty? What do they
Yes.
want to do? Who else is using, maybe some of those blogs that are happening, you see it need to be linked into campus, in which case maybe that linkage would be good to know how
Yes.
to do that. I want faculty to be doing that.
Yeah.
Right, so faculty need to be here, and I can listen, but they need to see the problem there. If they are going down this, I'm gonna find out who's using the blogs
Do it.
and see it.
Yeah, no.
But for my own personal, it's a bit different. I don't know, but you're not gonna launch in Canvas, are you?
No, I'm quite happy with my.
Do you have pictures on your, like, do you have a Twitter feed, and do you have,
I have attempted
Flickr?
to start using Twitter, but it's it didn't let me in.
okay, you're banned from it?
I don't know. It just said I need to follow up on here to start. Didn't let me start on my phone.
Oh, I've forgotten about that, I guess I can,
And
like,
I haven't been able to use it. So I know it's like, but maybe it's maybe.
how many do you need to follow to get on?
It's a thought.
Okay, well, follow me, follow David, follow Jason, there's 3.
Playing around with the fun stuff now. We've lost all the viewers, so just
Yeah.
finish off with
Okay,
this.
I'm heading out, man.
Well, thanks for coming today, guys. Sorry it was a little bit of a mishmash, but as you can, I'm trying to get my footing here and try to see where this is going to go because I don't know.
I have
I
a
just,
couple questions for each one.
okay, I'll just stop the broadcast. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.